I'm such a believer that if you follow your passions, if you take the road, open the doors that seem to open by themselves and go down those paths versus the ones that seem to trip you up every time you turn around, that you're doing something good.
Well, hello again, and this is the Few Podcast. I'm Robert Schein, your Few host today. Today is an exciting episode for everybody. We've got a wonderful guest, Lauren Del Sarto. We're going to hear about her story, but we're also on scene at the Desert Women's Show. So Diana Marlowe, who's going to be a future guest, has done this for 18 years. We're in Rancho Mirage, California, and we're going to have a great time with a great on-scene interview during the Desert Women's Show. So tune in, and thanks for watching. Well, Lauren, thank you for coming today, and thank you for joining us at the Desert Women's Show. Diana Marlowe puts together such a phenomenal event. I know that we're going to have a lot more fun out there, and thank you for joining us. But before we do that, we want to learn a little bit about Lauren, because you do such wonderful things for the community. You've been here, such a staple for the community, the Coachella Valley, for many years. I'm sure, if not, she has a booth right across from ours right here. It's Desert. The Desert Health magazine. I want to learn a little bit about how we got here, how you specifically got here. Yeah. But let's start off with, tell us about Lauren specifically. Anywhere you want to start, let's start there.
Sure. Well, I tell you, this is about money and confidence and wealth. And as far as career, I always say, if you want to make it work, follow your passion. So that tells you a little bit about who you are as a person, right? So my passions, my whole life, have always been horses and writing. So riding and writing, I say. And the story about all of my entrepreneurial ventures really comes back to the horses. So because I followed my passion, I think that things do really well. Well, before we go to what brought you here to the Coachella Valley, let's go a little bit about your upbringing. How did you become passionate about horses in the first place? Oh, gosh, Jeff, I was that little girl. Any others that just like from the day you could speak was like, get me a pony? And I just always was. I moved quite a bit as a child, but primarily the East Coast. And, you know, my parents finally broke down at 8 and got me riding lessons. And I actually took the school bus to the barn to muck stalls in exchange for my riding lessons. So I was entrenched in it at an early age.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's still your passion today, and we'll get through that. We'll get to where you are today as it relates to horses, and the Coachella Valley is so great for that. So
yes.
We're blessed to be in this valley here. But before that, you went to James Madison University?
I did. I went to college in Virginia and majored in PR and journalism. From there, I went to work in New York City for Morgan Stanley in internal communications, and did 2 years in New York. And I flew out to a friend from Stanford's wedding, and in Woodside, California. I don't know if anybody's been there. It's heaven. It's also horse country. Yeah. So I was out for a run on Whiskey Hill Road, and I stopped a gentleman on a horse. I said, "What's the story with horses here?" And he goes, "My dear, there are more horses per capita in this little town than any other city in California." And I said, "I have to move here." And I went back and gave my 2 weeks notice and FedExed everything out and found myself in Woodside, California, so I could have horses back in my life. It was the craziest thing I've ever done.
That is crazy. We do have something in common, because I was at Morgan Stanley as well.
Oh, you were? Yeah. I didn't realize that.
For 15 years.
Oh, my goodness.
So we have that in common. Yeah. So you're in San Francisco or the Bay Area. Yeah. You're following your passion again. And then what brought you to the Coachella Valley?
Yeah, so interesting. A number of things I did in the Bay Area. One of them was working with Dorothy Hamill, who many of you know, right? And her 50th year at the Olympics this year, and they're going to be honoring her, which is wonderful. But when she owned the Ice Capades, I was a marketing manager for her and traveled throughout the United States. She lives in Indian Wells. So before I got the job, I flew down here and said, this place is magical. It just seems so perfect and what have you. So my first introduction to the Coachella Valley. But my husband, who I didn't even know at the time, his mother has lived here for many years. So he decided that we were going to retire early about 20 years ago and move down here. So we brought one horse with us because I continued with the horses. And we moved here, and after 8 months of not enough to do and way too many cocktails, we're like, oh my God, we've got to go back to work. And then I ran into Dorothy again at Bones and Scones, which was really fun. So still in touch with her today.
That's typical Lauren. She doesn't sit still.
Yeah.
So how did you get to Desert Health News?
Yeah, so that's the interesting thing. I was such a workaholic, and I said, if I'm going to retire, I want to really focus on my own health. So I started looking into the natural health community here, and I just started doing all these weird things like, foot baths and acupuncture and getting in chambers and all this cool stuff. And I thought, this is crazy. No place else has this kind of stuff. And so, funny little story, I got to throw it in. Again, the horses. So I get on Craigslist to look for my little part-time job. And, I'd run an ad agency up in the Bay Area. I had an equestrian construction company, so many things. And I'm just on Craigslist and I see newspaper delivery route. And it says, $500 a month. And I'm thinking to myself, I'll be throwing out papers 5 to 7 in the morning, and $500 is exactly how much my horse's board is, and I'll have the rest of the day ride my horses. So I reached out to them and I said, I'm way overqualified, but I'm just looking for a part-time job. And they said, you are overqualified. How would you like to run the Coachella Valley division of Healthy Times newspaper? And I thought, what are the chances? So I did. Does anybody remember Healthy Times? It was a little very alternative, very only natural. So I did that for a year and helped them grow that. And then I said, this is missing the whole medical side of the Coachella Valley, the whole medical community. I said, there really should be a newspaper that promotes both naturopathic and allopathic medicine and where they're coming together. So I had this idea. I presented it to the owners of Healthy Times, and they said, no, we're not interested in doing this. So then I called Michael Felche at the Desert Sun, and I was like, I have the greatest idea for you guys. Your health section in the paper could use some help. Never heard back from him. So I was like, I guess I got to do this myself. And so I did, and I said, if it's going to work, we got to get Eisenhower on board. We got to get Desert Regional. So I presented the idea to them, and it was the right thing at the right time because medical and natural were starting to come together and work together, and it really was where healthcare was going. And so it was literally the right thing at the right time, and I've worked with both hospitals and all the naturopathic doctors and acupuncturists and what have you for 16 years now. So it's phenomenal.
It's been a labor
of love.
It's such a staple in the community and
Thank
such a
you.
great resource. And through this great work that you've done, you've helped so many people, but also this has helped you as well. Didn't you have your personal?
Yeah, I did. I had breast cancer diagnosis in 2018, and so grateful that I had so many professionals to guide me in the community. And I went off track, which you wouldn't be surprised, and had cryoablation at City of Hope. So that was a very fascinating journey, very successful, cancer-free for 8 years now, but really did a lot with the naturopathic doctor that I saw as well as oncologists. So my journey was very integrative, and it was really cool to be able to write about all of that and how you use both natural medicine to build your immune system and then the allopathic medicine to ensure that you're on the right track and get your scans and what have you. And it worked out very well for me there.
That's a great story in terms of just inspirational, and thank you for sharing that personal anecdote. One of the things I talk about 7 keys to financial wellness is your network of support. Yes. So it's the people that you know. You don't have to know the answers. My personal journey, and the reason why I started the Few Financially Empowered Women, is because not only am I a minority in a sorority, my son and I are with, we have my wife and 3 daughters personally, but my mom and my dad were married for many, many years. And when my dad retired at 70, he just wants to spend time with the kids and the grandkids. And 4 months into his retirement, he got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And that moment was very traditional. My dad came over, through Ellis Island in 1953. So he was, my mom took care of my brother and I. And so he took care of the finances. And so at that moment, we had my mom taking care of my dad, medically speaking, with all the doctors, the Mayo Clinic in Scottsdale, learning another language, as well as my brother and I, who are financial advisors, helping my mom through that personal journey of her finances, her budgeting, taxation, and then the estate planning as well. 9 out of 10 women will be solely responsible for their own financial health and well-being at some point in time in their lives. And as a father of 3 daughters and everything else, I in my practice, I help women have control, clarity, and a way forward so that wherever you are, we match and meet them. We create a financial plan, we match the investments, but we make certain that network of support is critical to make certain that you are taken care of, because
Absolutely.
As women, you're taking care of everyone around you. Who's taking care of you, both on the wellness side, but also on the financial and wealth side. So,
and having the confidence to know you could do it yourself if those people weren't around anymore, which you have the personal experience.
So my mom was the first inspiration to the Society of the Few as it relates to that. And that's my personal why, my journey of what we do and what we're doing. Lauren, I want to get through a couple of more questions for you. I'm not going to let you off the hook just so easily, and then we can ask the audience as well for some questions. But one of the things you talk about is being aware of basically where you're put in the universe and being open to that.
Yeah.
You want to share a little bit about that in your life?
I'm a strong believer that if your decisions create an easy path, if the door is open and you follow, and it's an easy path, then you're on the right track. When I started Desert Health, I had no health background, but I had a marketing and advertising background, but I felt like I was just flying over it. I just knew it was the right thing at the right time. And I'm such a believer that if you follow your passions, if you take the road, open the doors that seem to open by themselves and go down those paths versus the ones that seem to trip you up every time you turn around, that you're doing something good and that whatever you're doing is for the greater good. Big believer that those successful journeys have to start from your heart, come from your heart. So, yeah.
That's such great sage advice. And let's get back to the horses for a minute. You then became a successful horse jumper?
Well, yes. I started riding at 8. When I was 16, I'm proud to say I represented the United States in an international competition in Puerto Rico. So I was pretty good as a teen. But again, I'm working at the barn to pay for all of this. So, the whole way, which I'm so grateful for. And on and on throughout my life, I've come back to the horses. And I'd say 15 years ago now, I was like, you know what? We had horses that we just started trail riding, what have you. But down here, I was like, I want to start jumping again. I was scared to death and I couldn't do it. Knowing my experience, my trainer put me on this big jumper and I was like, no, you need to downgrade me to a pony. So I get Frodo, this little fat pony, and I'm jumping him like this big and I was scared to death. And then I got cancer. And then I said, I'm fearless. I can do anything. And I went back to jumping with the same trainer. And she put me with this beautiful horse and Tristan. And we went into our first show at the Desert International Horse Park. And we walked away with champion and reserve champion in 2 divisions. So I was back and loved it. Well, fast forward to 2023. My trainer sold her property in Thermal and decided to move back to Colorado and took Tristan with her. So I was horseless again and didn't want to start over. And then
what happened?
And then a business came knocking on the door. My friend was like, hey, I had this idea of creating these floating sound baths, and it looks like the perfect thing for the desert. And I was like, okay, wait, I know I have this much space that just opened in my life, but I'm not sure I want to take on another business. And within a week, I already had found a venue and said, okay, we have a business. What are we calling it? Good Vibes Floating Sound Baths. Has anybody heard of it?
Do you know what that is?
Yeah, they're sound baths on water. You're actually on a camping mattress, wrapped in a blanket with a pillow and eye mask, floating around a pool. We have 2 sound practitioners. Before we knew it, we had 400 million views on Instagram. We had people flying in from all over the world, and it became an instant success. We do them at Tommy Bahama Miramonte, at Azure Palm, and Desert Hot Springs. It became phenomenal. We were selling out, a year in advance. So I was now running 2 businesses with my partner, Michelle. And it was the most wonderful thing because, again, people are so stressed. And we would literally see influencers going to be like, take my money. I need this. Bring me to this now. You know, we had single women flying from the Netherlands, from Europe, for this experience specifically because everybody just was looking for an escape and a reprieve from the stress that everybody's under. So it's an amazing event. Please do it if you have the opportunity.
What's the significance of being on water and hearing the sound? What makes that so magical? Yeah,
well, so, you know, with Desert Health, one of the things we do every March is we publish the global wellness trends. And when Michelle came to me with this business, I thought, I know that 3 of the top trends are immersive experiences, and this indeed is, you're completely immersed in sound and vibrational healing, sound baths, because they are booming, and global wellness travel. People are looking for destinations to explore self-care, which is just wonderful. So those three things kind of, I know, were the secret of the success for Good Vibes floating sound baths. So again, right thing at the right time.
And you recently sold it?
Yes. So 3 years, and you know, we did so many events, like 60 events the first year, and it was just like, well, we're going to slow down. We did 30 events the next year. Both of us had other businesses, and there were so many more opportunities. So another little fun story. I was speaking at the Indio Rotary, and it was one of those like, oh, I'm on deadline. I can't believe I agreed to do this. There's going to be like, you know, priests and policemen. What am I doing speaking to the Rotary? Lo and behold, the most wonderful group ever. And at the end of it, I told my little story about starting Desert Health and the horses. Somebody raised their hand and said, are you still riding horses? I said, well, I'm not, unfortunately, because I started the second business. Well, lo and behold, those people ended up buying Good Vibes Sound Bath. So you never know, and I'm so grateful I did that.
Open to the universe where you're supposed to be, right?
Yes, where it was supposed to be.
The Indio Rotary.
Yeah, 2 wonderful, very wonderful people here in the community who are very entrenched in philanthropy and the community, and they've taken on Good Vibes and going to build it to even bigger and better and greater, and so we're very excited. So,
Lauren, you're a true inspiration. You're a publisher, a superwoman for sure. You're not going to sit still. Entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur, and what a great just publication for the community at large. So spend some time with Lauren today. I thank you for being our guest.
Yes, thank you.
And this is wonderful to be at the
me.
Desert Women's Show. 2 Saturdays, February 28th at the Ritz-Carlton. We have a whole day. Lauren's going to be there. I'm going to be there. I started this event over 5 years. It's our 5th year. City of Rancho Mirage is the presenting sponsor, but it's called the Confidence Summit, Women, Wealth, and Wellness. Throughout the day, we're going to have health and wellness panelists. Everything from nutrition, brain health, gut health, and it's just a jam-packed show. It's something not to be missed. Lauren's got a wonderful wellness panel, and I do a wealth panel as well. So if you guys want to spend another fun day, come join us in 2 weeks. Visit societyofthefew.org and reserve your seat today. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And if you guys leave with anything, follow your dreams and make magic happen. As long as it helps everybody, the greater good, then you're on the right path. So enjoy. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you, guys. Well, I think we had a wonderful podcast today, a wonderful setting. So with Lauren today, I think for our audience, the take-home point and the takeaway is be ready to take on your challenges in life. Follow your passions. You don't know where that's going to take you, but it'll take you to bigger and better areas of your life that you didn't even know was possible. This quote is from Michael Douglas. Cancer didn't bring me to my knees. It brought me to my feet. Thanks for watching, and tune in again next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
This podcast is brought to you by David Field Producer. It is produced and directed by David Field and Kristen George. And it's mix, edit, and socials by Kristen George and Sam Aguirre. Blanky Schein Wealth Management is a group of investment professionals registered with Hightower Services, LLC, member FINRA and SIPC, and with Hightower Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor with the SEC. Securities are offered through Hightower Securities, LLC. Advisory services are offered through Hightower Advisors, LLC. This is not an offer to buy or sell securities. No investment process is free of risk, and there is no guarantee that the investment process or the investment opportunities referenced herein will be profitable. Past performance is not indicative of current or future performance and is not a guarantee. The investment opportunities referenced herein may not be suitable for all investors. All data and information referenced herein are from sources believed to be reliable. Any opinions, news, research, analysis, prices, or other information contained in this research is provided as general market commentary. It does not constitute investment advice. Blanky Schein Wealth Management and Hightower shall not in any way be liable for claims and make no expressed or implied representations or warranties as to the accuracy or completeness of the data and other information, or for statements or errors contained in or omissions from the obtained data and information referenced herein. The data and information are provided as of the date referenced. Such data and information are subject to change without notice. This document was created for informational purposes only. The opinions expressed are solely those of Blanky Schein Wealth Management and do not represent those of Hightower Advisors, LLC, or any of its affiliates.